Hey guys, what's up? My name is Chloe and I'm a private pilot, and today I want to tell you about how I started flying when I was 34 and became a pilot. So this is probably the most inspiring story time on the internet. Maybe that's a little hyperbolic. I don't think so. After you hear it, I think you'll agree with me. This is probably one of the most inspiring story times you will ever hear about aviation or really anything else. I still can hardly believe it when I retell it, because that is just how cool it is. And yeah, let's just get right into it. So, all right. When I was 33 years old, I moved to St. Augustine, Florida, where I currently live. And I'm from New York City. I am a native New Yorker from New York City, from the island Manhattan. And I moved here when I was 33 because that was the year of the pandemic and the city had just gotten so miserable, I could not take it anymore. I mean, since the year 1987, I have seen the city go through many different phases. It was the most miserable one I had ever seen, and I could not see it getting any better. So I bought a car. I put all my stuff in the car, but me and my dog, and we moved here to St. Augustine. I had no thoughts about career at the time. I really wasn't thinking about anything related to what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I just wanted to live in Florida and be happy. And so I just got a waitressing job. I started delivering with Instacart and basically living and working, right? With no career aspirations. Now, in that first year, unbeknownst to me, I was actually getting involved in aviation because there was an Airbnb next door where a lot of people would come and just spend a month or two earning a license or rating and then leaving. So they would come, do flight training and go. So I would get to know people for like 2-3 month periods, and they were all getting various pilot licenses or ratings. And it was really cool. Like, I really enjoyed hearing their stories, and it was definitely really different. It was a level of autonomy that I had never previously even thought of. I spent, even though, like I said, I don't know if I said it, but I've been driving since I'm 15 years old. But I had bought my first car when I was 33 because I was taking the train most of my life. And even I had lived in Miami for a couple of years. I was taking Miami-Dade Transit at the time. So autonomy in driving was amazing to me, and I was loving the experience of that. Now autonomy in flying, getting in a little airplane and flying yourself around, like, that was so cool. So I was really enjoying their stories. And then towards my 34th birthday, I met somebody that was getting his private pilot license, and there was kind of like a flirtatious vibe between he and I. And you guys know when that vibe is present, like, you're way more tuned into what the person is saying, like your brain is lighting up and you're like super into it and you're more interested than ever. And so I was asking him more, like, beyond like his training, like, how does one get involved in flight training? I was starting to see myself possibly doing this myself. So he was like, oh, you start with a discovery flight, which is, if you're involved in aviation, but if you're not, a discovery flight is like you go on what would be like a flight lesson with a CFI, a certified flight instructor, to see if you would like it before you make the investment in training or think about making that investment. And I was like, okay, I could do that. That sounds awesome. And then I said, well, how much is your private pilot costing you? And he said 11 grand. I was like, 11 grand? I can make that money. 11 grand is not like so far out of, the realm of possibility. Like, I can make that money. Like, I can do this. So he gave me the number of the flight school, which is where I ended up earning my private pilot license and where I'm now doing my instrument training. And I made the appointment for my discovery flight. And it was, guys, it ruined my life because I fell in love with general aviation. I really didn't even know what general aviation was. As a commercial passenger on airliners. I was, always involved. If I was involved in aviation in any way, in any shape, size, shape, or form, it was as a, just a regular passenger and flying around in Class Alpha. I didn't even know it was called Class Alpha back then, but I had never flown at these lower altitudes where you could see everything. And, I was like in a Cessna, actually like in the cockpit. Like I had never seen all this stuff, the instrument panel, and it was just fascinating and I loved it. And I was so excited, but then I was also really kind of depressed because I really wanted to start right away. But then I'm thinking, how am I going to get this 11 grand together? And how far into the future is it going to be before I can start, before I have this money? I did not know then that you could pay as you go at my school, which is an important part of the story. So I am living with these competing thoughts and feelings for a couple of weeks. Oh my God, this flight, that was really awesome. And oh man, how will I ever, I was I can get this money together, but now it's how long will it take? And how much do I have to work? And kind of that downtrodden energy was sort of in my heart and mind as well. So I am driving around one day in the weeks after this flight, and I'm doing Instacart, and I'm having all these thoughts, competing thoughts. And finally I just said in my car, I still remember where I was when I said this. I was on 4 Mile Road in St. Augustine. I still remember the intersection. I can see it right now. And I said, God, if it is your will, involve me in aviation. Done. Stop thinking about it. I said those words to God. I said, God, if it is your will, involve me in aviation. And then I stopped thinking about it. About 3 hours later, I make a delivery, Instacart delivery, to a lady's house. I pull up to the lady's house and I see that she has a U.S. Air Force bumper sticker on her car. And as I'm handing her groceries, and I'm handing her groceries as she's walking in her house, coming back, handing and walking in her house, I said to her, I really like your bumper sticker. I'm thinking about getting my private pilot license. And she's walking towards her house with the groceries, and she stops in her tracks. And she turns around and looks at me. She didn't even say anything for a second. And then she has kind of a husky voice. I'm gonna call her Jenny. She turns around, she looks at me, and she goes, you want a job at the airport? Guys. First of all, I said yes. Yes. The first thing I said, yeah. Do you want a job at the... Yes. And she goes, all right, give me your number. So I gave her my phone number, and she said, I'm going to text you the name of a lady and her phone number, and you call her, and you tell her that Jenny sent you and you want a job at the airport. I was like, okay. So I gave her my number, and when I got in my car, I was like, oh my God, did that just happen? And I thought to myself, whether she calls me or not, this is the coolest and weirdest thing that has ever just happened. That was just the tip of the iceberg. So before I even got down the street, I'm driving away from her house, before I even got down her street, she texts me the lady's name. I'm gonna call the lady Marguerite. These people are all still friends of mine, is still in my life, in my world. So she gave me Marguerite's name and number and said, call her and tell her you want a job at the airport. So I said, okay. So the very next business day at around 10 o'clock, I called this lady. I said, hi, my name is Chloe. I'm a friend of Jenny. I didn't know I said, and she told me to call you because there's a job at the airport. And she goes, yeah, come down. Here's the address. Write the address down. I'm like, okay. So I'm writing the address down. She goes, can you come right now? I said, yes. So she goes, okay, can we see you in how long? She said, how long would it take you to get here? I said, 20 minutes. Same exact airport where I did my discovery flight, right? I throw myself in the shower, get all dressed, and I drive over there, and I meet her at the airport administrative building. And she looks at me and she goes, we have a job opening, ticket and gate agent. Elite Airways was there at the time. And she said, if you want the job, it's yours. And I said, yes. Ticket and gate agent, which is just like, you know, you come up to the person, you give them your ticket and they check you in, right? So ticket and gate agent. So I'm sitting there in the office doing the paperwork, like, is this real? Like, this is the same airport where I did my discovery flight. Now is this really happening? Is all this stuff happening? But it's happening, right? So I worked for a while doing the flights when Elite was there. It was not an easy job. I had to wake up. I had to be at the airport at 5 in the morning. So I would get there at 4:45 to make sure that I was there, because I was always paranoid that I wouldn't wake up, right? So I would get there at 4:45, and it was not easy. And then it didn't pay very well, and I was like, you know, thinking, all right, this is something, and it is in aviation. I did ask God, you know, please involve me in aviation, but I don't think I was clear enough or specific enough that it's, you know, because I want to fly. And I would see like people, you know, taking their flight lessons over on the ramp, like where all the general aviation aircraft were. And I would be like, oh my God, like, how do I get over there? You know, like I'm stacking up the coins, right? And then one day, Jenny asked me, she's like, you ever start taking flight lessons? I said, no, I haven't started yet. I'm still getting the money together. She's like, well, can you pay as you go? And I was like, pay as I go? I was like, you could do that? She goes, can you ask? I was like, I can ask. She goes, yeah, you got a mouth, you can ask. I was like, I do have a mouth, I can't ask. So I went to the flight school where I had done my discovery flight, and I said, hey, I feel really weird about asking this. Like, it seemed like a silly question to me. I'm like, is it possible to pay for flight training as you go, like pay as you do the flights? And they said, yes. And I was like, okay, how do I start? So the guy at the front desk, like, he gave me a list of AMEs, the Airman Medical Examiners. He told me to get a medical first, which you actually don't need to do. You can start flight training without a medical. You just need the medical to solo. I always tell people, like, to do what I did, which is get your medical first. Go for your medical first, because if you do not pass that medical and you can't solo, then you cannot earn your license. So he gave me good advice to go get my 3rd class airman's medical, and to bring a birth certificate or a passport and fill out a pilot profile, and, you know, make an appointment to start flight training. So that is what I did. And it was rough in the beginning, you guys, because I paid as I went, which meant, and at the time I could only afford to go once a week. And it was really, really eye-opening, I must say. I'll tell you, the entirety of my flight training I started on August 22nd, 2022. And I did my private pilot check ride on February 21st, 2024. A lot of things happened. I was very consistent. I flew at least once a week that entire time. But I sucked in the beginning. At this point, let me just, like, you know, cut to the chase. I really sucked, and really, it was awful. I was terrible. It did not come naturally to me. And I would wonder a lot in the first many months, like, can I really do this? I mean, when I would look at my CFI and everything that he had to do to just, like, you know, get us from the point of takeoff, flying around the county and back to the airport, I'm like, I don't know if I can do all those things. That's like a lot of task management, and the stakes are so high. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And I would be in my head a lot. I used to drive home from my flight lessons in the beginning, just crying, like, my God, I really suck. Like, this is not coming naturally to me at all. And then what happened was, okay, my first CFI he was almost done, or he was done with all his hours and was interviewing with airlines. So he was, like, on his way out anyway. I had made an appointment to train in Melbourne, um, on the week of, it was Thanksgiving week 2022. And somebody had suggested that I fly there with this one particular guy who was really good with challenging students. Which it was me. I was very challenged. I just sucked, and that I should make an appointment to fly with that guy, and he would figure out what my mental blocks were or something like that. So, but when it came closer to the date, I'm like, oh my God, I really don't want to drive all the way there. I'll just get through my mental challenges here with my CFI. But by that time, my CFI was already booked up. It was a really short week. That's like a 3-day week, and he didn't have any availability. So he said, fly with this kid, Mason, this week. And he's really good. He's new. So I was like, okay, I would rather fly, with somebody a CFI I don't know than not at all. Remember, I was very consistent. And I wanted to, keep up, even though I sucked a lot. I flew with Mason that first time in that Thanksgiving week. And after we landed, I called my mom and I said, Mom, if I keep flying with Mason, I'm going to become a pilot. Because we had excellent student-teacher chemistry. He immediately tuned in to all of the things that were blocking me, that were in my way. He saw all the habits that I had, some of the bad habits that I already started developing. And he's like, stop doing that, or this, or that, or this, or that. He was so tuned in immediately to me right away that it was just an excellent student-teacher pairing, and that was it. So I started flying with Mason, and everything really changed from then on. I soloed months later. Now, see, what happened was I took a month off to really just focus in on and hone in on the written. So I spent a month away from flying. I think it was all of January 2000, from late December 2022 to the last week of January 2023, I did not fly. I just studied for the written and I nailed it. I got a 97. And then I started flying again once a week. Finally, on March 23rd, 2023, I soloed for the first time. So I see that I'm at a point of solo. I'm past the point of solo. I'm past the point of solo, and I see what all is ahead of me with the cross countries, because I actually hadn't even gone on a cross country yet. And money-wise, I'm like, okay, I see that I can do this now. I see that I can fly a plane. I've soloed. I've gone around the pattern and stuff. But now this money thing is really becoming an issue, because these cross-country flights, I could already see were not cheap. I had done one with my CFI in April, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be really, the cost of one cross-country flight was 2 flight lessons in one. And I'm like, oh my God, how much more time will this take me to get this license? It was getting really bad. In terms of time, I'm like, will it take me a year? Shit, it took me way longer than a year. So, how do I tell you guys this? Something happened at the airport where I ended up going. A lot of things happened, but I'll just tell you the summary, the arc. I went from being a ticket and gate agent when the airport had Elite Airways, making $15 an hour and change, okay, to in the middle of 2023, actually through this crazy situation that happened, ended up in an executive role at the airport authority, and being able then at that point to afford to really bang out my license and get all the cross-country time I could have ever hoped and dreamed for and wanted. And so I ended up, but the position was extremely stressful. So while I was able to get through my license a lot better financially, the mental stress, the time, the exhaustion of working in that position also kind of then slowed me a bit, to a point where I did end up, what was it? How long is it? August 2022 to February 2024. That's a year to, and then August, September, October, November, December to January. A year and 6 months total. So all that time, where first in the beginning the slowdown was money, and then later the slowdown was just mental exhaustion and physical exhaustion from work. But yeah, I did end up in an executive position at that airport. And now I still work at the airport, but in a different position, much less stressful, much happier, working on instrument rating. But yeah, so then ultimately I started flying when I was 34, ended up 36 with my private pilot license on January 21st, 2024. Yeah, that's how it happened. It's amazing. I'll always tell people that aviation only changes you for the better. I want to fly. I'd like to fly Part 121. I'd like to be a commercial. Sorry, not a commercial. How am I saying? I'd like to be an airline transport pilot in my life. I would like to do that. Realistically, I think because of my age, maybe it'd be better to aim for Part 135. Although if I can get through everything in a timely fashion, a more timely fashion than my private, then I think Part 121 is still possible. But I don't care. I'm happy either way. I just would like to get to, and I will, not I would like, but I will get to a point of flying jet engine. Doing everything in aviation. Anything that can fly, I want to fly it. I have a real passion for flying, for aviation, and I pretty much would like to get rated in anything that I possibly can. Seaplane, tail dragger, complex, high performance, I don't care. I want to do aerobatics. I just love aviation, and it just seems like this is the path that I was supposed to go down. I think everything has shown me that in the story of how I even got to where I am today. And yeah, that is my story of how I started flying at age 34 and became a pilot. Definitely. Even in the retail, blows my mind, but I hope that inspired you. I'm gonna stop talking now, guys. I've been talking for 23 minutes and going, and I'm gonna leave you with that. But yeah, so tell me about your guys' amazing, inspiring stories in aviation, and what all has ever happened in your life where you're like, oh my God, God, or if you don't, I believe in God, so have the universe showed you this is my path, or if you had any moments like that, and I would love to hear about them. I think they're really inspiring. So definitely leave your comments down below. I always read them, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Okay, take care. Bye.